Hi, everybody. Welcome to Zooming In. We're so pleased to be with you here today. I hope everybody's doing well. We've made it through maybe 3/4 of a hot, muggy summer, so congratulations to us. I'm here today with State Representative Tram Nguyen, class of 13. I'm very pleased to spend a little time with her. I've gotten to know her over the last 5 years pretty well. She's spoken for me at Women in the Law. I've been most appreciative of that. And we're going to dive in. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about her, and then I'm going to ask her some questions. But thank you for coming today, and thank you for listening. Tram is the state representative for the 18th Essex District, which includes parts of Andover, Boxford, North Andover, and Tewksbury. She is a first-generation Vietnamese American immigrant and was the first person in her family to attend college and law school. She earned a bachelor's degree from Tufts University and a JD with us, again in the class of 2013. Shout out to them. From the start of her legal career until she took office, Tram worked at GVLS as a legal aid attorney and advocated for domestic violence survivors, workers, seniors, veterans, and children. She also engaged in legislative advocacy and worked with the statewide coalitions, lawmakers, and lawmaking bodies to push for laws that address the issues of racial and economic justice and to protect the rights of the most vulnerable populations. Tram was recently elected into office in November 2018 and is the first Vietnamese American woman to serve in the Massachusetts Legislature. Think about that for a moment. She has received the Lawrence Bar Association Merit Award, the Vietnamese American Bar Association Public Service Award, the Reginald Heber Smith Award for Innovation and Excellence in Legal Advocacy, and the UAW Social Justice Award. Thank you, Tram, for being with me today. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. This is exciting. I look forward to chit-chatting and catching up with you.
I know. So here we are. Question number 1. This one's an easy one. Why did you choose Northeastern Law?
Well, first of all, because you do things like this, this is very exciting. But of course, this has to go back to even before considering law school. I have to go back to my undergraduate years when I was really floundering, trying to figure out my major when I was at Tufts University. And I like to tell this story, especially for the young kids who are like, I need to know everything about my life. I changed my majors 8 times because
Wow.
again, I thought I was going to be a doctor in a pre-med program at Tufts. But then during my junior year, I got an internship with Greater Boston Legal Services as an intern. And at that time, the managing attorney, Cindy Marks, she is a NUSO graduate.
Yeah.
And that was the first exposure to this type of law. As someone who grew up in an immigrant family, I really didn't know many people. I actually didn't know any lawyers at all. What I knew about the law came from TV or whatnot. And so when I got this internship, I realized, wow, there's a whole new world of lawyers using their law degree to do amazing things. And as you know, Greater Boston Legal Services is literally the hub for Northeastern graduates.
Yes.
Not only did I meet Cindy, I met all these Monica Hallis and all these amazing attorneys who were social justice warriors and doing amazing, wonderful work to help the most vulnerable populations. And I was hooked. And so I started looking into it further, and I thought I was going to go to law school right away. But then after graduation, I decided I was going to take some time off just to make sure that this is the path for me. I did my thing, went out to California, worked for a big law firm out there as a paralegal, and then realized, you know what? Yeah, the big law firm is not the place for me. And so it really cemented my commitment to Northeastern and the commitment to social justice and working for nonprofits and for other organizations that serve the people. And so when I came back to Massachusetts and getting ready to go to law school, I just applied to Northeastern because I knew that was the law school for me. And I was completely right. Many of the folks in my class and otherwise are doing excellent work, really important work to help those in our communities that need it most. And I'm just thrilled that even now I get to continue to work with them on such important policy issues. And that's really kudos to to our law school for really fostering that commitment to community serving.
We're so lucky you chose us. I was also pre-med.
Yeah, didn't work out.
It didn't last too long. Organic chemistry got me.
Yes.
Did you have a favorite professor or two, and why?
Of course. Well, we were just chatting about how chatty I am. I actually have a list of 3, and I have to say, Lucy Williams really opened my eyes to welfare law and just so many other, civil procedure. We'll always remember that class. She was just very personable and really cares about the students. And you can just see how passionate she is about the topics that she teaches. And also Margaret Burnham, who is tough but fair, and she pushes you to go out of your comfort zone. I had her for con law, and I have to say I remember every little thing that she says, because she really cements it into your and also you need to know, because she'll cold call you and know the answer.
Yeah.
And then also Danielle Medwed, that I took, I forget the exact name of the class, but it's for, we focus a lot on the Innocence Project and just people who were wrongfully convicted. And that really opened up my eyes. And, we still stay in touch. And I just find his work in the criminal justice world has just been phenomenal. And so I'm just so thrilled to have, and to know not only of these 3, but so many of the professors, and, some of them even, some of the visiting professors or adjuncts were just really helpful in the work that I did. And Bob Burdick, the late Bob Burdick, was someone who I remember from negotiations as well. And so great times.
Lots of favorites.
Yes.
Okay, this one you have to really self-reflect a little bit, but you truly have broken down barriers. Do you ever take a step back and consider that you're the first Vietnamese American woman to hold a state office in Massachusetts? Do you ever think about that? Does it come across your brain while you're doing your work?
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes up from time to time, because I'd like to say that I'm the first, and I don't want to be the only. And so my work throughout this past year and a half has really not only been focused on my constituents and of course the policy work, but some of the other things that I've been doing is to work to build a pipeline for Asian American women, for Vietnamese American women, for Vietnamese Americans generally to be engaged and involved in government and politics. And this actually comes up regularly in thinking through, who do I support? What organizations do I support? What types of events do I speak at? What types of events do I go to? And sometimes I talk to my aide, and we look at my calendar and say, Tram, why do you have so many events? It's like, why were you involved in so many panels? Why are you, speaking at so many things? And one of the, things that we are very conscious about is that if I'm not there, then that voice is missing, because it's not like there are a lot of Vietnamese Americans elected. We nationally, I think we can count ourselves on both hands, and that's about it. And so there's a small network of us Vietnamese American electeds, and many of us are firsts, and it's all within the past decade. And so it comes up from time to time. And I also like to think of the fact that prior to getting elected, my parents have never stepped foot into the state house. How many others have never stepped foot until their own daughter became elected into office? And so I'm very intentional about who I invite to the state house to make sure they understand it's the people's house. The government is for the people. We need to hear from all voices. We need to make sure that diversity is not just a buzzword, but it's actually diversity is a value in and of itself, because it allows for different conversations to be had, more innovation. And so I have been working in collaboration with other groups to make sure that we're supporting many other firsts. There's so many missing voices at the State House right now. I'm one of only 6 women of color. out of 200. We're only at 25% women. And so we are, I know, actually, no, we're at 30 now. I'm very excited. So because of new election, yeah, we're at 30, which is, you know, still there's
still
way to
crazy.
go. But we're very excited to, you know, I'm very excited to join in that effort to really bring different perspectives and experiences to the table. But it has really been such an honor to be the very first Vietnamese American in the House and the very first Vietnamese American woman to be in elected office, and hoping to continue that momentum.
Well, we're very proud of you. We're going to focus on diversity at Women in the Law this year, too. It's called All In, Reimagining an Inclusive Workplace. It's September 25th. I hope you join. I hope a lot of others join us for that as well. But so important, and we're really incredibly proud of you. So talk a bit about the work you've been doing lately that relates to COVID, such as the Economic Development Bond Bill in Conference Committee, the Debt Collection Fairness Act. I think you were that bill's sponsor, and your recent op-ed in WBUR's opinion section about the impact on COVID. Will you talk a little bit about those types of things that you've been working on for me?
Of course. COVID has really just impacted everyone in so many different ways. And as a first-time legislator, it has been a huge learning curve, just understanding, you know, where we could be effective in the impact that we can make on certain policies. As you can imagine, you know, with the state of emergency, a lot of things are coming from the executive branch, but they also need the legislative branch to come out with policies and put things into place, especially with funding, to make sure that we're providing enough resources to folks. So some of the things that I've been focusing on has been around unemployment. As you can imagine, we're at 17% right now. And I practice employment law as a part of the work that I did with the Greater Boston Legal Services. And so I'm still in contact with my colleagues from there, and some of the work that we've been doing is to try to make sure that unemployment is available and accessible to the people, particularly in terms of language access, making sure that we're thinking through how to get folks who may or may not have internet, who may or may not have a computer or laptop or otherwise, to gain access to the UI online system, and just so many other issues, because we went from very low unemployment to all of a sudden this huge surge. So of course the system needs to catch up. They need to hire new people, and we want to make sure they hire people with language skills. And so these are the things that we've been working very closely with the Secretary of Labor and other groups, including leadership in the legislature, to really raise these issues and support the executive branch in how they implement and carry out and serve our constituents. But on top of that, like you were mentioning, you know, debt collection, and there are other bills that are just as important, because we know that it's going to be a while before we get out of this. And unfortunately, even after this, it's simply going to be a long time before we fully recover as a community. And so with the debt collection bill, I'm really proud of this, and actually I'm working with a lot of Northeastern grads on this, many of them from the Consumer Law Center. So we've been, this was a bill that was filed by former Representative Broder, who now is the mayor of Melrose, and Senator Eldridge. And so I came in when Representative Broder left to become mayor. He said, "Can you take this on?" And so I took this on because I just realized that we need to make sure that we keep more money in people's pockets. And we have, Massachusetts has one of the highest interest rates in the country. And so all of these things will really compound to and will surely impact the people. And so we're really pushing hard on these policies to make sure that folks have more money in their pockets and also can stay in their homes. You've been seeing, you know, the push to make sure that we have a moratorium on eviction, so that people are not just out on the streets during this pandemic. And so there are many important and great work that we're doing, and with the economic development bill too, to make sure that we're supporting small businesses and jobs and pumping money into into our various communities so that people can recover. And I have to say, it has just been such an honor to serve with my colleagues, who I've learned so much from them, from, you know, people in leadership who have just been so supportive. As a, you know, I'm I own the fact that I'm a newbie. So anytime I need something, I would call me. I'd rather do it the right way than, try to guess as to how things are done. And people have just been phenomenal in providing us that guidance. And most people don't realize that most legislators have only one aide. So my aide. That's it. They're just the two of us who are in office, and we represent 40 to 45,000 constituents, right? And so it's a lot of teamwork with folks also I'm in the Merrimack Valley, so we have a Merrimack Valley delegation. We have to lean on one another, especially during this time when we're all remote. So we have to find ways to communicate.
Yeah, and to kind of partner with many others. And we do have the Senate President, Karen Spilka, so that's lovely for you as well.
Yeah, we also have Representative Higgins and Senator Roush. So there's a network. We should build a Northeastern Law School caucus. That's what I'll advocate for next.
We have one. We're doing great. So what inspired you, thinking back a little bit, what inspired you to take the leap and run for office? Who helped you the most with your campaign? And did you always think you might run for public office, or no, that kind of surprised you?
If you had asked me this 5-10 years ago, I would never have guessed that I'd be elected right now. I loved my job working with, direct client interaction and going to court. I actually miss going to court a lot. So this is something a conversation for another day. I miss litigation, and I loved doing that work. But then, after 2016, I started working on policy work too, advocating for paid family medical leave, Fight for 15, and other work to help workers. And in doing that policy work, I got to know some of the legislators and also other advocates who also are committed to this work. And while working with them, I got to know, or didn't get to know, my the former representative at the time. I tried to reach out to him for 2 years to talk about these policies and bills that I was working on, and he refused to meet with me. And so, I just didn't get a response at all. And as a constituent, I was very shocked and surprised. And so when I say I got to know him, but really didn't get to know him, and that I tried to reach out, didn't get a response at all. And I was very curious as to how a person could represent people if they're not talking to people and understanding the issues that people care about. And so I started looking into his policies and realized that we are complete polar opposites. He's a Tea Party Republican who is just very extreme on all the issues and clearly voted against everything that I would care about, including all of the things I mentioned to you. And on top of that, just very much basically 180 degree from where I stand on issues. And so I decided to look into this, and my colleagues from GBLS, my friends, my family, everyone encouraged me to run, including some of the legislators I've gotten to know, because they saw my ability to collaborate, to build consensus, to be a partner and working with others to move things along. And so I was encouraged to run. And I almost till the very end, I was very hesitant because there's a statistic that shows that women, you have to ask them at least 7 times for them to even consider running. And particularly as a woman of color, I think it just took a lot, even more so than that, because I wasn't sure if I had the network, if I had the support, if I had just the ability to withstand what is required in a election. And, as women too, we constantly question ourselves and want to know everything about everything before jumping into that, but that's not how a campaign or election works. There are many unknowns and many variables, so that leads to a lot of hesitation.
You learn along the way. You have to, be agile. Do you think you're going to stick with public office? Did you find your calling? Do you think is this a life of public service?
I hope that my constituents and others would agree that I have fulfilled my commitment of being available and accessible and really advocating for the issues that we care about. And so I've enjoyed that part. I think that right now I'm a little bit still shell shocked from being a first term legislator in a global pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is really taking a toll on, all of us. But I'm honored to be in this position, and I feel like I have accomplished many things that I have wanted to accomplish, but there's still a lot more to go. So I am running for re-election this year.
Yes.
I want to continue to push for the policies that I've been, working on. I filed 20 bills and 11 of them came out favorably from committee, which I'm excited about. But given the pandemic, many of them will probably not get through the session, which is why I want to come back for another session to try to really push them through to the finish line. But I am thrilled to be here. I'm leaving the door open for, who knows, 5-10 years. But for now, this is really something that I want to stick with and make sure that the people of this district, especially since it's a purple district, I want to make sure that it stays Democratic. And so we're going to work hard if and when I leave to find someone to run for the seat so that we can continue with the progress.
We're doing a great job. You really are. I see you at all kinds of events now virtually and really representing your district really beautifully. So congratulations on that. I have a little bit of a tougher question. So talk about your support for Black Lives Matter and how it's connected to your community and the struggle you faced as a Vietnamese American.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you read recently, about a month ago, I faced a lot of backlash after I posted a video in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. I mean, for me, this was a no-brainer. We need to stand in support of one another. I see the Black Lives Matter movement as a gateway to dismantle systemic and institutional racism and to work to build coalition and to work with Black and Brown communities. As an Asian American AAPI person, I want to make sure that we are bringing other AAPIs to the table, and that other AAPIs also feel like they're part of this movement. And so my video was really to talk about the importance of solidarity and how Asian Americans need to reject the model minority myth that has been used as a wedge between us and other communities of color. And so we need to use this moment and this momentum that we've built to really address inequities and racial justice for all. And so that video got so much backlash from a small but very vocal minority of Vietnamese Americans who support Trump. But the silver lining to all this is that after I came out that video and it really it went viral, I had thousands of Vietnamese Americans who support Black Lives Matter coming out to say, I have not seen a Vietnamese American elected official taking this stance, and I want to take the stance with you. And I'm so proud that I was able to embolden them and empower them to then continue to speak out for this very important movement, and also being a part of this on the right side of history. And so this is an ongoing conversation. This is something that we'll continue to work on. And I work very closely with my colleagues in the Black and Latino caucus as part of the Asian caucus. And we are committed to supporting their work as they try to achieve reform in our state. And I'm proud that we're continuing to build on both caucuses so that we will have more people of color overall to contribute to this very important conversation.
I'm glad you stayed true to yourself. That's the most important thing, right? And you were a role model, so good for you for coming out and being a role model. So hard work, but needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Talk about your parents and your own immigration journey for a minute and how that might have inspired your journey to be a lawyer.
So I came to the U.S. In 1992 with my family as political refugees, and we came right to the Merrimack Valley. So I grew up in Lawrence and then graduated from Methuen and then went off to Tufts and then Northeastern Law School. But the entire path was really inspired by my family. My father served in the South Vietnamese military, and so after the communists took over, he was put into he was basically a war prisoner, put into these re-education camps by the communists, where he did hard labor for 8 years, and then after he came out of that, he came back to society and was completely blacklisted and couldn't find a job, couldn't really make a living. And then I was born, and we were very thankful that we were able to come over to the US and have the support and help that we needed to get started in this new country. And it's always astounding to me that my mother was around the same age as I am right now, in my 30s, when she first came here without knowing a word of English, with 2 kids, 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and my dad too, not knowing what's ahead of them. But they always found a way to be a part of the community. Even when they didn't have much, they helped others who had even less, who had just come over after us. And so I saw that and realized that it is so important for us to be a part of the community, to support community, because it lifts all people. And that has really stuck with me throughout my career. And so, interestingly, I thought I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help people. And I thought being a doctor is the only way to help people. Then you realize that there's so many other things it could do, including being, an attorney helping vulnerable folks. And so that led me to, the career that I chose as a legal aid attorney. And then now it fits in very well with where I'm at as a legislator, looking to not only help my constituents, but really focus on policy and work to help those most vulnerable among us. And so my parents continue to inspire me, and most people have this impression of Asian American parents who, are very strict with their kids, or they encourage their kids to stay away from politics. But I've never really had this. My parent, when I said to him, I'm going to run for office, he was like, yes, do it. And then when I went back and forth, like I was telling you earlier, I was very hesitant about it. So when I said, no, I don't think I'm going to run anymore, because, I came up with all these excuses, he looked genuinely disappointed in me. He was like, I don't understand why you're doubting yourself. And so, when I saw my parents and how proud they were when I first won, that really made it all worth it. And so I think the support from family, and also the racism and the hurdles that they had to jump through, makes me more compassionate and understanding of the issues that people face. My parents, my dad worked, both of them worked 2 to 3 jobs, making barely minimum wage. They were discriminated against at work. My dad experienced wage theft at one point or another. So all of that inspired me to work on these issues, both as an attorney and now as a legislator. And so when I talk about these issues and things that we take on, it's very personal to me, and I have stories to say why certain things are important.
Yeah, you've lived it. You've walked the walk, and you've seen it from all sides. So I think it's a beautiful asset for you and your career. But they sound phenomenal. So shout out to your parents.
No, shout out to them for sure.
Shout out to your parents. Given today's political climate, and you touched on this a little bit, why is it important to have women voices included? And what voices do you think are missing?
We need to make sure that there are different voices at the table, and that the government needs to be representative of the people. We have 50% women. We should have 50% of the seats. Or, if we have so many, and I mentioned earlier, there have been so many firsts, but there have to be many more firsts. We still haven't had a Muslim American in the legislature. We have very few people with disabilities. We have very few people of other ethnic groups as well. And in addition to that, we need to talk about folks who come from very different backgrounds as well. And also, when I talk to youth, especially, I was like, youth is a diversity factor. We need to bring more young folks to the table as well. And so that just allows for more robust conversations. And especially this past year, I realized 8,000 bills were filed. I don't know many of the issues that are touched. And so we need people with different backgrounds, with different perspectives on life, so that we can have these discussions. And I've even recognized my own blind spots. Sometimes, I'll go into an issue and I thought, I'm going to vote this way. And after hearing a debate, it really opened up my eyes. It may or may not have changed my vote, but at least I'm recognizing, oh, wow, I did not think about it that way. This is why that person takes a certain position. For most cases, no one's wrong. It's just that we're seeing things from a very different perspective and angle. And also, our communities are so different. We have 351 towns and cities, and I'm recognizing just how different our districts are. Based on the makeup of your district and where you come from. So all of this is to say that there's a lot more work to be done, and we need to be very intentional in who we recruit, who we bring in, and how we build the pipeline to allow people to feel not only to get into office, but feel supported to stay in office. And these are things I'm constantly thinking about.
Yeah, that is important. Talk about, is it Emily's List that I saw you participated in? Does that help women candidates? Is that what that's
Yes,
for?
we have many organizations that help. So Emily's List is a national organization where they help and train and support and recruit women. We also have Emerge, which is a training program specifically for Democratic women. We have Barbara Lee's foundation. They support women in our community, in our Commonwealth as well. And then Mass Women's Political Caucus.
Yep.
And there are many other groups that somehow feed into feed into the pipeline and help continue to support women as we stay in office. And also, we need to think about how schools are giving students the opportunity to intern as well. Start thinking. We have had many interns from Northeastern Law School, and so we hope that you will continue to do that and send more women to us, because the more they're exposed to this, the more likely they would think about even running for office. I tell my interns all the time, you see how I'm struggling, right? I don't know everything, and that's okay. We're going to learn this together. And I think that's so important, especially for women to see that, most of the time when we're out there, you see me speaking and it looks like, I have it all together. Well, yes, but at the same time, it takes a lot of hard work. And also you learn along the way, like you were saying, these are things that you learn on your toes, and you learn from even your mistakes too.
I'm not going to do that again. Sure. That's a great pipeline to hear about. So I'm happy to hear that. Okay, here's another question about one of your babies. Talk a bit about the 2020 U.S. Census and why it is so important for our state and our country.
Absolutely. This is indeed one of my babies. Like I said, I took some time off between between undergrad and law school, because I worked on the 2010 census. After I came back from the big law firm in San Francisco, I jumped into the 2010 census and worked as a partnership specialist there. So my commitment to the census really actually opened up my eyes to advocacy and how to communicate with people to get them to participate in the census, and understanding the issues and hesitations that communities have. It's so important for us because not only does it affect representation, and you remember we lost a seat in the 2010 census because we didn't count as many people as we wanted. And this year is even more crucial because the funding for 2010 was much higher than it is now in terms of the investment from the federal government. And because of that lack of investment, Massachusetts, we've set aside funding through our budget to distribute to organizations and municipalities to help with the count. So the count not only affects representation, but it also affects funding. We need the funding more than ever now during this time of the pandemic. For each person who doesn't participate in the census, we lose thousands of dollars, and that multiplies very quickly. It will affect us for the next 10 years, until the next census. So if we are undercounted, then we're undercounted for the next 10 years. And so I encourage and I hope that people will participate in the census from now until the end of September. if you haven't filled out the census form, someone will come to your door to knock on your door to get the information. So I actually I encourage folks to just fill out that form to avoid having someone go to your residence to get the information. And just a note that all the information on there is confidential. They're both fines and or prison term associated with, if any census worker ever reveals the information in the census form. And so please go to the census website. I don't want to misquote it, so I will look it up, but it's census2020.gov for those who just
Fantastic. I filled out mine. I sent it in.
Yeah.
Yep. Done. Check the box. Thought of you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Folks.
Who is your biggest role model? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I want to hear. Who do you look to for inspiration?
Of course. I actually just want to, before I go to that answer, I want to make sure I say the correct website. It's 2020census.gov.
2020census.gov. All right.
For those who are interested in filling out the census. And thank you for that question. I have been thinking through this, and of course, I have to bring it back to my mother. And what I was saying to you earlier, it takes so much for a person to give up everything in her country and everything she's known, her family, her friends, everything that she has to come to a new place for her children's future. And that just takes so much strength. And so for me, I continue to think of, even now when I'm doing anything difficult, I have to think to myself, how is this as difficult as what my mom went through? And so that just allows me to take on more and more, because I just feel nothing that I do could ever compare to that type of sacrifice. And it actually inspires me to do a lot of work in immigration, because I'm thinking to myself, people are sacrificing so much because they could not live in wherever they came from. And that's the reason why they're here. And so all her presence, her strength, and her ability to really make the most of everything and always be there for her family has really inspired me to be the person who I am today and continue to do the work that I continue to do.
I love how close you are to your family. That's actually really inspiring. I know that you guys miss, pre-COVID times, but it's great that you're still finding ways to stay connected. That was my final question for you, but is there anything else you want to share with our listeners and viewers today that I missed that you wanted to share?
I just want to remind folks to remember to vote. The fall election is one of the most important elections in recent history, and probably in my lifetime. Please remember to vote. The primary is on September 1st, and the fall election is November 3rd. Please, please, please remember to vote. And this year, as I'm sure you all know, we have mail-in voting, we have early voting. So please check with your clerks to make sure that you have all those, with all the right information. But make a plan. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for people. And also remember the mail-in voting, the ballots, we don't even need stamps, it's prepaid. So all you need to do is just fill it out and send it back. And that's all we can ask from you. So make your voices heard, and please remember to vote.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. I always enjoy it. You're such an engaging and lively graduate. It was such a pleasure to spend time with you today. I appreciate all that you're doing for the Commonwealth, for your district, and actually representing Northeastern University School of Law so beautifully. So thank you, Tram. I appreciate you. And I'm just proud of you. I hope that doesn't sound condescending in any way, but really, really proud of you.
Thank you so much.
You're doing
I
great work.
appreciate your work as well as everyone there for really keeping us alums engaged and finding ways to connect with us and support us, as we move through our careers. And so the work that you do is just phenomenal, and really putting Northeastern on the map and making people realize just how great our law school is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll talk again soon. I know you have probably 15 other events to get to. So thank you for making time for me and all of our listeners today. So thank you.
Anytime. Happy to do it.
Thanks, Tobin, too. Appreciate
And
it.
thanks to all the viewers for tuning in. And feel free to reach out to me anytime too, if anyone thinks, has interest in running for office or has any ambition to be involved in government in any way. I'm happy to help out and utilize this network. That's why I went to the school.
That's why we're here. Absolutely. All right. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
You too.
Okay.
Take care.